If you can understand this news episode, your English is excellent. Today, we'll use a real political topic to practice listening and vocabulary. Our question is simple but important. Why does Donald Trump want Greenland, and what could it mean for NATO and the European Union? I will explain everything in clear English, like a podcast documentary. Then I will teach you useful vocabulary and expressions. Let's start with Greenland itself. Greenland is a huge island in the North Atlantic and the Arctic. It is the largest island in the world. Most of Greenland is covered by ice, and the population is very small compared to the size of the land. The capital city is Nuuk, and many towns are small and far apart. Life there is shaped by cold weather, long winters, and the ocean. Fishing is a major part of the economy, and many people also work in public services. Now, here is a key point that many people confuse. Greenland is not an independent country in the usual way. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. That means Denmark and Greenland are connected, but Greenland has strong self-government. Greenland manages many local issues, like education and health, while Denmark handles things like defense and some foreign policy decisions. This is important because it means Greenland is not something that can be bought like a normal product. Any change would involve laws, politics, and the people of Greenland. Now, why would a U.S. president want Greenland? There are three big reasons you must understand: geography, security, and resources. First, geography. Greenland sits in a very strategic location between North America and Europe. If you look at a map, it is like a giant piece of land on the path between the United States and Europe. In global politics, location matters. Countries care about where ships travel, where planes travel, where submarines move, and where communication systems can be placed. In the Arctic region, location matters even more. The Arctic is becoming more active. Countries are paying more attention to the north because it affects shipping routes, military movement, and global influence. Greenland is close to key routes across the Arctic, and it is also close to areas where big powers watch each other carefully. Second, security. The United States already has a major military presence in Greenland. For many decades, the U.S. has used Greenland for defense systems, early warning systems, and space-related monitoring. The main idea is simple. If something dangerous travels across the Arctic, Greenland is one of the best places to detect it early. So when Trump or U.S. politicians talk about Greenland, it's not only about land, it's about national security and military advantage. In modern defense, warning time matters. If you can see a threat earlier, you have more time to respond. Now, connect this to Russia. The Arctic is one of the shortest paths between North America and parts of Russia. During the Cold War, the Arctic was a major focus. Today, many experts say Arctic security is becoming important again, especially with new technology, new missile systems, and increased military activity. So for the U.S., Greenland is valuable as a security platform. Third, resources and economics. Greenland has natural resources, and it has potential for more. People talk about fishing, but also minerals. In modern geopolitics, minerals can be power. Some minerals are called critical minerals because they are needed for modern technology: batteries, electric cars, smartphones, wind turbines, and many military systems. When countries worry about supply chains, they care about where these materials come from. Also, as ice changes, some areas may become easier to access. That does not automatically mean easy mining, because Greenland is still very harsh and expensive to operate in. But the long-term interest is real. When leaders think long-term, they think about future access and influence. So those are the main reasons: geography, security, and resources. Now let's focus on Trump and the idea of buying Greenland. When Trump first spoke publicly about wanting Greenland, many people treated it like a joke, but from a geopolitical view, the logic is serious. Trump often thinks in deals. He looks for leverage. He thinks about strategic advantage and economic value. In that style, Greenland looks like a powerful asset. But here is the problem. Greenland is not just empty land. Greenland has people, identity, history, and politics. Denmark has sovereignty issues. Greenland has autonomy issues. There is also a long history of colonial relationships and debates about independence. For Greenlanders, the question is not who will buy us, it is what future do we choose? So when an American president says, "We want Greenland," it can feel insulting to Denmark and to Greenland. It can sound like a strong country trying to pressure a smaller partner, and that leads directly to NATO. What could it mean for NATO? NATO is an alliance, which means it depends on trust. NATO members promise to protect each other. They plan together and share security responsibilities. Denmark is a NATO member. The United States is the most powerful NATO member. If the U.S. pressures Denmark over Greenland, that can create tension inside the alliance. Even if there is no military threat, political pressure and public arguments can damage unity. Here's the big idea. NATO works best when members feel respected. If one member behaves like a bully, other members may become less cooperative. That can weaken NATO's ability to respond to real threats. Also, NATO has an Arctic dimension. Several NATO countries are Arctic or near Arctic countries. Security planning in the north is sensitive. If Greenland becomes a political fight, NATO discussions become harder. Now, what about the EU? This part is interesting. Greenland is not part of the European Union today, but Denmark is. That means Greenland issues can still become EU issues, especially if trade, diplomacy, or security is involved. The EU also has strong interests in Arctic stability, climate policy, shipping safety, and access to critical raw materials. If a U.S. president uses tariffs or trade pressure connected to Greenland, the EU will react because tariffs affect European economies. Even if Greenland is not an EU member, a conflict around Greenland can still impact U.S.-EU relations. So Greenland can become a bridge between security and economics. A debate that begins as strategic land can quickly become trade negotiations, tariffs, alliances, and diplomatic trust. Now, let's step back and ask a deeper question. Is Trump's interest only about Greenland, or is Greenland part of a bigger strategy? Many analysts think Greenland is a symbol of the Arctic competition between the U.S., Russia, and also China's growing interest in the region. Even if China is not an Arctic country, it has shown interest in Arctic routes, research, and long-term economic involvement. In global politics, powerful countries think in regions, not just borders. They want influence, access, and partnerships. So Greenland becomes a key square on a global chessboard. Now, what could happen in the future? There are a few realistic possibilities. 1. The U.S. increases cooperation with Greenland and Denmark without changing sovereignty. This is the most realistic path. Stronger security agreements, more investment, more diplomacy, and more Arctic cooperation. 2. Greenland continues to expand self-government and moves towards more independence over time. That is a separate internal political path, and it depends on Greenland's people and economy. 3. Tension increases if political leaders keep using aggressive language about Greenland. That could hurt NATO unity and EU-US relations, even if nothing changes on paper. Now, let's make this easy with a quick summary. Greenland matters because it is a strategic Arctic location with military value, potential resource value, and political value. Trump's interest can be seen as an attempt to gain more control or influence in a region that is becoming more important, but pushing too hard can create backlash and weaken trust with allies like Denmark, and it can also affect relations with the EU. Now let's move to vocabulary. These words are extremely useful for understanding politics and news. Vocabulary section. Sovereignty. Sovereignty means the legal right to control a territory. If a country has sovereignty, it makes the laws and decisions for that land. Autonomy. Autonomy means the ability to govern yourself. Greenland has autonomy because it manages many internal affairs. Territory. Territory is an area of land under the control of a country or government. Annex. Annex means to take territory and add it to your country, usually without the other side freely agreeing. This word is sensitive and often connected to conflict. Alliance. An alliance is a partnership between countries for a shared goal, often security. NATO is an alliance. Leverage. Leverage means power you use to influence a decision. Tariffs, military cooperation, or agreements can be leverage. Tariff. A tariff is a tax on imports. Governments use tariffs to protect local industries or pressure other countries. Diplomacy. Diplomacy is how countries communicate and negotiate peacefully. Geopolitics. Geopolitics is the study of how geography and power affect politics and international relations. Greenland is a geopolitical location. Strategic. Strategic means important for long-term planning, especially in military or political thinking. Security. Security means safety from danger, especially national danger. Now let's practice these words with simple sentences.